So, picture this: I'm standing in my mom's kitchen, the one I helped renovate, and for the first time in years, everything just hit me. A decade of little hurts, the favoritism, the invisible life I've lived for everyone else. It all boiled over. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, turned, and walked out. And yeah, things got chaotic. Grocery orders canceled, Netflix gone, phone plans down to nothing, panicked messages flooding in. But here's the thing I didn't regret a single second. Growing up, it was kind of subtle at first. Like nothing huge enough to point at in a single moment and say, this is unfair. But if you look at it as a whole, all the tiny little things, they pile up. My sister, Chloe, she's 3 years younger than me. From the moment she was born, it was like she was bathed in this special light. I was quiet, responsible, the kid who did her homework without complaint, who followed the rules and tried to keep everyone happy. Chloe, she was a firecracker, loud, charming, the kind of kid who could make people laugh or convince you the sky was green. Our parents totally smitten, completely captivated by her energy, her spark. And me, I was the bedrock, solid, dependable, but invisible, the steady presence under all that chaos, never the one in the spotlight. No one threw parties for the bedrock. I remember my 10th birthday really clearly. I had been dreaming about this bright blue bicycle with a little basket on the front. I'd circled it in the catalog for months, marking it with little stars, counting down the days. When my birthday finally rolled around, I got a set of encyclopedias and a savings bond. Encyclopedias, a savings bond. I stared at them and felt this sinking feeling in my chest. My dad adjusted his glasses and said, "A bicycle is a toy, Abigail, but knowledge and financial security, that's an investment in your future." I was 10. I didn't want an investment. I wanted to ride a bike with my friends, feel the wind on my face. I wanted that simple, silly joy. And Chloe, 3 years later, her 10th birthday, that same bright blue bicycle rolled out for her. This time with pink and purple streamers on the handlebars. I tried to point out the discrepancy, gently, quietly. And my mom, she waved it off, like it was nothing. "Oh, honey, you were always so much more mature. Chloe needs encouragement to get outside and be active." The message was clear. My desires, frivolous. Chloe's needs that required celebration, guidance, attention. And it wasn't just birthdays. It seeped into every corner of our lives. Academics, achievements, little milestones. When I earned a scholarship to a prestigious university for computer science, the recognition at home was muted. A quiet dinner. My parents were proud. Sure, but in that distant, academic way. "That's our sensible Abigail," my dad said, patting my shoulder. "We never had to worry about you." You hear that? Never had to worry. I was reliable, predictable, safe. Then Chloe scraped by with a C average, barely got into a local community college to study communications. And suddenly, the house exploded into a full-on celebration. Massive backyard party. All her friends invited. Toasts to her bright future, to her people skills. I was there, yes, but mostly refilling chip bowls, clearing plates, a caterer at her party, a bystander in my own family. I remember thinking, well, that's one way to see your sister shine. Meanwhile, I'm invisible. Then there were the moments that hurt, in the everyday practical ways. When Chloe got into trouble, I was the one called. I remember she got caught with an open container in her car, facing a fine and a license suspension. Panicked, she called me. "You have to help me. Abby, Mom and Dad will kill me." And you know what they didn't? They called me. My part-time campus job money, my savings was supposed to cover it. "She's your sister," my mom said. That voice, laced with disappointment, like I had done something wrong by hesitating. "You're good with money. It's what families do." And so I paid. Chloe barely said thank you. Complained for a week about the mandatory driver's class. My parents never reimbursed me. This kind of thing didn't stop with school or minor troubles. After I graduated, landed a good job in software development, my role in the family grew exponentially. Suddenly, I wasn't just sensible Abigail, I was a family bank. It started with small things. Can you pick up the groceries? The internet bill is in your name. Can you just pay it? And it escalated fast. Phone plans, Netflix, Spotify, grocery delivery, even fancy upgrades because, well, I could get a better family rate. Each request had this casual, almost polite tone. "Oh, would you mind?" Which, of course, made it impossible to refuse. You'd look selfish if you said no. So, I paid for it all, and yet every dollar, every bit of effort didn't earn me recognition. No one thanked me. I started feeling like a stranger in my own home, funding vacations I wasn't invited to, supporting social outings I didn't get to enjoy. I knew exactly where the money for their brunches, their new clothes, their little indulgences was coming from. Me. It was crushing in this quiet, slow way. And then came the heartbreak, the event that shattered any remnants of trust I had left. Breaking off my engagement to Mark after 5 years. Hardest decision ever. Mutual. Painful, but necessary. I needed my family, their support, a shoulder to lean on. Instead, judgment. Chloe sided with Mark immediately, her voice dripping with condescension. "I can't believe you did that to him. Abby, he's so much fun. You just kept him cooped up." And my parents, they echoed her sentiments quietly, like they were afraid of conflict, but clearly choosing sides. Suddenly, I was not just overlooked, I was replaced. The ex I loved, absorbed into their affection while I was erased. It wasn't a metaphor. It hurt, physically, like a weight pressing on my chest. A dull ache that refused to go away. That's the context. That's the foundation of every little simmering resentment. Every moment of invisibility. Every unspoken message that I wasn't enough. A decade of tiny slights. The bike, the party, the scholarship, the fines, the endless bills I covered, all of it. It added up. And by the time I walked toward my mom's 60th birthday party, uninvited, my heart already carried the weight of all that history. I wasn't just going to be ignored in the moment. I'd spent a lifetime being invisible, responsible, overlooked, and it shaped everything I did that night. Every decision, every pause, every glance around that kitchen was influenced by years of tiny, repeated betrayals. It was subtle, it was cruel, and it was enough to make me walk out without a word, setting the stage for what came next. Once I graduated and started my career, everything shifted. I landed a solid job in software development, and suddenly my role in the family morphed into something heavier. I wasn't just Abigail anymore. I was the bank, the problem solver, the invisible infrastructure that kept everyone else comfortable. It started with small things. "Can you pick up the groceries, honey?" The internet bill is in your name. It's just easier if you pay it and you nod, because of course it is. You don't want to seem selfish, right? And so I did it. I paid for groceries, internet, phone bills. At first, it didn't feel so bad, kind of like helping out a little, But then the little requests kept coming. I added Netflix so Dad could watch his documentaries. Spotify for Chloe's endless playlists. Premium grocery delivery for Mom so she wouldn't strain her back. Each request wrapped in that same casual, almost polite phrasing. "Oh, great, would you mind?" Which, of course, made it impossible to refuse. You couldn't say no without feeling like a monster. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, it built up. I was funding their lives, literally, covering the infrastructure they relied on, while simultaneously feeling invisible in the moments that counted. It's funny, because no one ever came up and said, "Thanks, Abby." Not really. Not in a way that made you feel seen. The more I paid, the less my presence seemed to matter. They would talk about vacations I wasn't invited to, or nights out, or brunches with friends I had no part in, while the money for all of that came from me. And Chloe, she would post pictures online, smiling at some expensive brunch, a new outfit, maybe a new gadget. And I knew exactly where the disposable income was coming from. It was coming from me. That thought, it kind of burned. It was like, you're here, invisible, supporting everyone else's fun, their comfort, their convenience. But where is your recognition? Where's the warmth? Where's the acknowledgement that you exist beyond your utility? It didn't feel fair. And the thing is, it wasn't just the money. It was the expectation. The underlying assumption that I would always be there, quietly solving problems, quietly making life easier for everyone else. I felt like I was trapped in a role I never auditioned for. And then there were the bigger moments that really tipped the scales. Like when Chloe got into trouble with that open container in her car. I still remember that phone call vividly, her voice shaking, panicked. "You have to help me. Abby, Mom and Dad will kill me." And of course, my heart raced, because who wants their sister to get into legal trouble? But then they didn't step in. No, they called me. I was the one with the money, the responsibility, the ability to fix this mess. "She's your sister," Mom said. That voice laced with disappointment, like I had some personal failing for. Hesitating. "You're good with money. It's what families do." And so, I paid the fine. My savings from a part-time campus job, gone in a single transaction. Chloe, barely a thank you, complained for a week about a mandatory driver's safety class. And my parents never paid me back. It became a pattern. They didn't see it as an imbalance, a burden. They saw it as me being reliable, capable, and therefore expected to carry it all. The more I did, the more it became my duty. And the resentment, well, it grew quietly, like a vine creeping along the walls, until it was all I could feel sometimes. By the time I was in my mid-20s, it wasn't just small errands or fines. I was covering bills that, honestly, should have been split or managed by my parents themselves. The phone plan, Netflix, Spotify, groceries, utilities, even things like premium services that made life easier for them. And each addition came with that same subtle pressure, that tiny, polite phrase. "Oh, would you mind? It was designed to disarm any protest. How could you say no without looking cruel, selfish, ungrateful?" And so I said yes. Every single time. I paid, I facilitated, I made their lives smooth, their days easy. Meanwhile, I watched from the sidelines as my own life got subsumed into theirs, as my own needs took a back seat. It was invisible work, thankless, relentless. And the more I gave, the more invisible I felt. Chloe's successes were celebrated with parties, toasts, social recognition, while mine, hard-earned achievements like scholarships, good grades, or promotions were acknowledged in a quiet, almost dismissive way. "That's our sensible Abigail," they'd say. "We never had to worry about you." The phrase alone made me pause. Never had to worry. That was their way of saying I was reliable. But somehow, that reliability was a substitute for affection or pride. I started noticing the pattern, the consistent undervaluing of my achievements, the preferential treatment of my sister, the constant expectation that I would absorb responsibilities without question. It wasn't malicious, not always, at least not overtly, but it was systematic. And over time, it created this gnawing sense of frustration that I carried everywhere. It's funny, the things you notice when you look back, like the small, casual financial requests that weren't really requests at all, they were expectations. "Can you handle the internet bill this month? Could you pick up the groceries? Oh, the Netflix is in your name, would you mind covering it?" And you think, "Sure, of course." But it piles up. It doesn't feel like generosity anymore. It feels like a chain, a tether that binds you to everyone else's convenience. And all the while, no one sees you. No one asks how your day went, how you feel, or even notices you in the room unless you're doing something for someone else. And then came the emotional weight. It's not just money. It's the constant awareness that your time, energy, and attention are taken for granted. I would sit in my apartment, paying for all of this, wondering why I felt so disconnected from the people I was helping. It's a strange combination of being indispensable and invisible at the same time. They relied on me, but they didn't see me, and every single day, it weighed me down a little more. My achievements weren't enough to earn celebration. My contributions weren't enough to earn gratitude. It was all assumed, expected. And I carried that quietly, sometimes laughing to myself about it, sometimes seething silently. It was exhausting. I remember the first time I realized just how deep this had gone. I had paid Chloe's fines, covered her groceries, maintained the family Netflix account, upgraded Spotify for her playlists, and even taken care of premium services for Mom's comfort. And in the same week, I realized they were planning a vacation I wasn't invited to. A trip that my money was partially funding. Of course, it was like a slap in the face. I had been holding up the world for everyone else. And for what? So they could continue living comfortably while I stayed in the background, invisible and unappreciated. That's when the frustration really started to boil. I mean, I knew I was capable, I knew I was dependable, but this wasn't responsibility. This was exploitation disguised as familial expectation. And the longer it went on, the heavier it felt, the more resentment built, until I realized it wasn't just frustration, it was anger. Deep, steady, simmering anger. And yet, I kept doing it. I felt trapped by my own sense of obligation. It wasn't that I wanted to be treated like a doormat, but somehow, every polite request, every familial expectation, and every indirect manipulation had me locked in. The pattern was subtle, pervasive, and hard to break. Every time I tried to assert myself, it was met with guilt or disappointment. I started noticing the toll it took on me: anxiety about money, resentment toward people I loved, a lingering sense of invisibility and isolation. Every dollar I spent for them, every bill I covered, it felt like a part of my own freedom slipping away. It didn't help that life kept moving. My responsibilities grew, but the recognition never did. Chloe's social media posts flaunted the benefits of the life I was funding: vacations, brunches, gifts. Meanwhile, I would be picking up the groceries she wanted for a dinner she'd casually plan, paying for the premium deliveries so mom could avoid bending her back, updating Netflix and Spotify accounts so dad and Chloe could have seamless access. The pattern was endless, unyielding, and the more I did, the more normalized it became for everyone else. They stopped seeing me as a person. I became the infrastructure, the bedrock once again, invisible yet indispensable. By the time I approached my late 20s, I could trace every penny, every favor, every little act of financial service back to this growing resentment. It had started small, manageable, even honorable, but it evolved into a web of obligation that tied me to their comfort while leaving me emotionally stranded. I was frustrated, yes, but also deeply hurt. I wanted to be seen as their daughter, not just the one who pays for everything. I wanted acknowledgement, gratitude, maybe even love that didn't come with strings attached. And every time I looked at Chloe being celebrated, being cheered for things that were less significant than my contributions, the frustration surged. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the respect I had never received, the validation I had been denied, the way my role had been invisibly cemented, while everyone else took it for granted. So, that's how it built, layer upon layer, expectation after expectation. A lifetime of being the responsible one, paying for bills, handling fines, covering subscriptions, maintaining the systems that kept my family comfortable. And with each act, the emotional toll mounted. By the time I finally started to act, that frustration had hardened into something more, a cold, steady clarity that, for the first time, made me question, why am I doing all of this for people who don't even see me? That was the point where it stopped feeling like helpfulness and started feeling like bondage, invisible labor, unappreciated and expected. And it wasn't just about money, it was about power, recognition, and finally, reclaiming both. The weeks leading up to Mom's 60th birthday were a mix of dread and strange, stubborn hope. I knew, deep down, that I wasn't really wanted. I mean, there had been no invitation, no call, no cheerful note in the mail like the ones I used to get when I was part of their world. The only reason I even knew the party was happening was because of Chloe's frantic Instagram posts. She had that ridiculous countdown up, counting down the days until we celebrate the best mom in the world. Linda's 60 hashtag party time hashtag family first. Family first. The hashtag felt like a jab, almost deliberate. I stared at it, feeling a pang in my chest. It was one of those moments where the smallest digital gesture somehow cuts deeper than any conversation could. And here I was, staring at it in my apartment, wondering if I should even show up. Every post I saw over the next few days twisted the knife a little further. Pictures of them picking out decorations, Mom laughing with Chloe over silver and gold balloons, Dad proudly assembling some new patio bar I knew. Of course, that the card had been charged to my account, or at least partially funded by money I'd quietly covered. And there was Mark, smiling in some of the videos, my ex, The one person who, for a fleeting moment, I had thought would understand the world I was living in. Seeing him there, seamlessly integrated, laughing, celebrating, part of the family that had been slowly, methodically erasing me from its orbit, made something twist in my stomach. I wanted to scream. I wanted to turn the car around. But still, there was that small, stubborn voice whispering, maybe if they see me, maybe if I bring a gift, maybe they'll notice me. Just for a second, as me, not the bank, not the problem solver, but their daughter. Foolish. I knew it was foolish, but hope has a way of making you ignore logic. I debated for 2 weeks. Coffee with Sarah, my best friend, was the worst and best place for it. Don't go, Abby, she said, firm as ever. Her eyes were serious, not just making conversation. Why would you subject yourself to that? They've made it clear you're not part of the inner circle anymore. You're just the service provider. Don't give them the satisfaction of making you feel small. I nodded. Of course she was right. Logically, every part of me agreed. It would be torture, an exercise in self-inflicted misery. But then I'd see another post, and that little flicker of hope would return. My mother's 60th birthday felt like a monumental occasion, something that shouldn't be ignored, right? Something that maybe, just maybe, could bridge the gap that had been widening for years. I wanted to believe that maybe my presence would remind them who I was. Remind them that I had always been here, even when they treated me like I wasn't. So, I started preparing. The preparation itself was loaded with nerves. I stood in the middle of a high-end department store, scanning racks and shelves, trying to find something that said, I still care, despite everything. I didn't want something flashy or extravagant. Not really. I wanted it to be thoughtful, a gesture that could convey, without words, that I remembered the things my mother loved. I wandered past scarves, jewelry, trinkets, anything that felt like it might express the sentiment I carried in my chest. And then I saw it, a deep blue, soft cashmere scarf, the color Mom loved, the texture rich and comforting, expensive, more than I probably should spend, but somehow it felt right. It felt like a peace offering, a tangible symbol that I was willing to try, willing to show up despite everything. At the cashier, as they wrapped the scarf in shimmering silver paper and tied it with a pristine white bow, I felt that familiar mix of optimism and dread. Maybe this would be enough. Maybe this gesture could unlock a door they had closed on me. And then the drive. The street lined with cars. The faint sound of music and laughter drifting from the backyard. A warm, inviting sound that my stomach twisted around like a knot. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to retreat to the safety of my quiet apartment. But I didn't. I forced myself out of the car, walking up the familiar stone path, gift clutched in my hands like a shield. Every step felt heavier than the last. The front door was unlocked, and as I stepped inside, the low hum of chatter from the backyard hit me immediately. I could smell the scent of grilled food and Mom's perfume, that comforting scent that should have made me feel at home. For a moment, I let myself breathe. Maybe this was home. Maybe this was normal. But then I caught sight of them. The sliding glass door to the patio revealed the party in full swing. About 30 people, family, friends, neighbors, my aunt and uncle, all mingling. My father at the grill, laughing at something my uncle said. My mother flitting between groups, radiant and happy. And then I saw Chloe, always the center of attention, animated, charming, and vibrant. And Mark, standing right beside her, laughing like he belonged there more than I ever had. The sight hit me like a physical blow. The air left my lungs. The knot in my stomach tightened until it actually hurt. All that hope I had nurtured over 2 weeks withered in an instant. Sarah was right. I was a fool for coming. I stood there too long, a ghost in the doorway. Mom spotted me eventually. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, a flicker of surprise or annoyance. Then it smoothed back into polite warmth. "Abigail, you made it," she said, her voice a little too loud, a little too bright. She walked over, brief, stiff hug, cheek barely grazing mine. The scent of her perfume was almost cloying. It wasn't an accusation, but it wasn't a welcome either. It was just a statement of fact. "Happy birthday." "Mom," I said, my voice sounding weak even to my own ears. I held out the gift. "This is for you." She took the box, placed it on a nearby table with the other presents. A small, polite smile fixed on her face. There was no warmth, no genuine pleasure, the kind of smile you give a stranger holding a door open. She immediately turned back to the guests, calling out, "David, look who's here." My father glanced over, gave me a quick, non-committal wave, and returned to his conversation. No one else even noticed. It was like I had dropped a stone into a river, a ripple that barely registered before the current carried on unchanged. I was there, but I wasn't really there. I felt it then, the suffocating weight of invisibility. Every laugh, every conversation in the backyard, every glimpse of Mark and Chloe together reinforced it. I needed air. I retreated to the kitchen, a quiet space I had helped design, under recessed lighting I had helped install years ago. The room was bright and modern, a space that should have felt like mine, at least in memory, but standing there, it felt alien. A sterile monument to a relationship built on transactions, obligations, and silent expectations. I opened a cabinet for a glass, slow and deliberate. My reflection in the microwave's dark glass looked pale, strained, shoulders tense, jaw tight. I was an intruder in my own family's home. I just needed a minute to breathe, to push down the lump in my throat, to figure out how to make a graceful exit without causing a scene. And then Chloe walked in. At first, she didn't see me. Sandals clicking on the tile floor. She went straight to the refrigerator, pulling out a bottle of sparkling water, humming along to the backyard music. Blissfully unaware, only when she turned to grab a wine glass from the same cabinet did she notice me. Her smile vanished, replaced by pure, unfiltered annoyance. That looked like she had just found a cockroach in her kitchen. Her eyes swept me, from my simple dress to my tense posture, and a smirk played across her lips. "Why are you here?" she asked. Voice loud, accusatory, cut through the quiet like a shard of glass. I froze. I couldn't speak. Cold water glass slick in my hand. The silence was invitation enough for her to continue. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, holding the bottle loosely. "I mean, seriously, didn't you get the vibe this wasn't your year?" The vibe. The word lingered in the air, casual yet cruel. It summed up everything. My breakup, the months of exclusion, being replaced, all reduced to a single vibe. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not a loud snap, Not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet click, like a lock falling into place. The years of small cuts, the constant undervaluing, the feeling of being invisible, all of it coalesced into one chilling, clear understanding. I looked at Chloe, truly looked at her, saw the entitlement, the smirk, the golden child who never faced consequences because I had always been the safety net. And I realized she wasn't mean because she wanted to hurt me. She believed her world was normal, and I wasn't part of it. A strange calm washed over me. The lump in my throat dissolved. The tension in my shoulders eased. I didn't need to fight, to argue, to explain. Nothing left to say. You can't reason with a brick wall. So I smiled. Small, knowing, devoid of warmth. The kind of smile you give when you've finally been handed the key to your own cage. Chloe's confusion was almost comical. She'd expected tears, anger, a pathetic plea. She was disarmed. I set my water glass down on the marble countertop I had paid for, turned my back on her, walked through the living room, past the table, gifts still in hand, didn't glance at the backyard, didn't look at Mom laughing, Dad grilling, Mark integrated into the family, just kept walking. The front door closed quietly behind me. The click of the latch, satisfying, final. I walked to my car, engine low hum replacing the music and laughter from the party. No tears, no sobbing. Time for tears was over. The hurt that had been a dull ache for months had sharpened into something else, a tool I now wielded with clarity. Chloe's words echoed. Didn't you get the vibe? This wasn't your year. She was so wrong. This wasn't my year. This was my life, a life I controlled alone. Standing there in the kitchen, I felt the weight of every unnoticed birthday, every ignored accomplishment, every small, quiet slight I'd swallowed for years. Chloe didn't even notice me at first. Her sandals clicking across the tile as she went about her business like I wasn't there. She hummed along to the music from the backyard, completely at ease in a space I had helped create, a home I had helped fund. And suddenly it hit me. This was the life they had built, and I wasn't part of it. I just needed a glass of water to steady my shaking hands. When she finally turned around, her eyes met mine, and everything shifted. That smirk, that casual disdain, it was there, like it always had been. She didn't even pretend to hide it. And then the words, "Why are you here? Didn't you get the vibe this wasn't your year?" The vibe? I froze, my chest tightened. Wait, what a vibe? That's it. That's the explanation for everything. My years of silent sacrifice, my heartbreak, my endless responsibility, all reduced to some casual throwaway comment about a vibe I couldn't even process it at first. My brain stumbled over itself, trying to make sense of the casual cruelty. I felt that familiar sting, a mix of disbelief and the sharp, hot ache of every time I'd been overlooked, replaced, undervalued. It was almost laughable if it weren't so raw. Here she was, the golden child, the one who never had to think about consequences, casually dismissing my entire existence with the word vibe. I couldn't speak. I wanted to explode, to scream, to demand that she see me for a second, not as a utility, not as the invisible safety net, but as a person who had been there, silently carrying the weight of their lives on my shoulders. And then, something quiet happened inside me, a subtle shift I hadn't expected. It wasn't an instant, dramatic, snapping moment. It was more like a lock falling into place. Years of hurt, of being the responsible one, the overlooked one, the financial buffer, the emotional caretaker, all coalesced into a single, sharp clarity. I realized that I didn't need their approval anymore. Not her, not mom, not dad. I didn't need to justify my existence, explain my feelings, or seek validation from people who had systematically trained me to feel invisible. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't in years: calm. Chloe leaned casually against the counter, wine bottle in hand, arms crossed, clearly expecting some reaction: tears, anger, a plea for understanding. She was armed for a fight, and I wasn't going to give her one. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw everything clearly. The entitlement in her posture, the assumption that she could dictate how I felt, that she could frame my life as some failed vibe she had no responsibility for. And suddenly, I wasn't shocked anymore. I wasn't hurt in the same way. I just understood. She believed in her version of the world, the one where she was the center, the one where I existed solely to support her. And I didn't need to be a part of that world. A strange sense of calm washed over me, the kind you feel when the storm finally stops. But instead of relief, there was power. The lump in my throat dissolved, the tension in my shoulders eased. I didn't need to fight, to argue, to defend myself. There was nothing left to say. I realized that nothing I could say would change the way she saw the world or her place in it. And more importantly, I didn't need to change myself to fit into her narrative. I had been given a key, and I wasn't going to hand it back. Not today. So, I smiled. Not a happy smile, not even a small, polite smile. It was a quiet, knowing smile. The kind you wear when you finally understood something fundamental about your life. A smile devoid of warmth, yes, but also free. Chloe's smirk faltered. Confusion flickered across her face. Tiny but unmistakable. She had expected tears, a dramatic outburst, a begging for explanation. Instead, I offered nothing. I was calm, collected, impenetrable. I set the glass of water down on the countertop, deliberately, as if marking the space as mine, even for this brief moment. And then I turned my back to her, walking through the living room, past the table where my gift sat unopened. I didn't glance at the backyard. I didn't look at Mom laughing, Dad at the grill, Mark integrated into the family. None of it mattered. I just kept walking, each step lightening the invisible weight I'd carried for years. Reaching the front door, I opened it, stepped outside, and quietly closed it behind me. The click of the latch, the soft, satisfying sound, was a punctuation I had waited years for. It was the end of something, the beginning of something else. The drive home was surreal. The music from the party faded behind me, replaced by the hum of my car, the rapid beat of my own heart. I didn't cry. I couldn't. The pain, the frustration, the resentment, they had sharpened into something else. A tool, a weapon, a clarity I could act on. And I would. Sitting in the quiet of my apartment, the loneliness I'd once feared felt instead like sanctuary. The storm outside could rage all it wanted inside. I was finally free, and in that freedom, the thought settled in me fully. This wasn't going to be my year. It wasn't going to be just some temporary moment of relief. This was my life, my decade, my world. And for the first time, I held the reins. Chloe's words echoed in my mind. The casual dismissal that had once felt like a dagger. Didn't you get the vibe? This wasn't your year. But she was wrong. So wrong. The decade ahead wasn't about them. It wasn't about a vibe, a birthday, or a fleeting sense of family approval. It was about me, taking control, stepping into the role I had long been denied, the role of main character in my own story. And as the realization settled, I felt a kind of power I had never experienced before. Quiet, unshakable, and precise. I could see everything for what it was, the repeated slights, the overlooked achievements, the constant expectation that I provide without ever being seen. Every moment of invisibility, every small indignity, every misaligned birthday and unnoticed milestone, it all led here. And now, it no longer held power over me. I didn't need to fight with Chloe. I didn't need to argue with my parents. I didn't even need to explain myself. The choice, the decision, the control, all rested with me. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just responding to their actions. I was initiating mine. I let the silence stretch between Chloe's stunned confusion and my calm resolve. Every second that passed, the years of resentment and frustration solidified into a foundation beneath me, unmovable, certain. I realized that this small, quiet smile, this deliberate turn and walk out of the kitchen was my first act of reclaiming autonomy. I wasn't reacting emotionally. I wasn't lashing out in anger. I wasn't begging to be seen. I was existing on my own terms, fully, deliberately, and with absolute clarity. The tiny flicker of panic in her eyes confirmed it. She had expected drama. She hadn't expected this quiet, devastating certainty. And then, finally, I was outside. The door softly clicking shut behind me, the night air cool against my face. The tension that had gripped my shoulders, my jaw, my chest, the constant low-level ache of being overlooked, undervalued, and exploited was gone. Every step back to my car, every turn down the familiar streets, every moment of the drive home was a reaffirmation I controlled my life now. Not Chloe, not mom, not dad, not Mark, me. And with that realization came a rare, liberating clarity. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a chapter I had been waiting years to write. For the first time, I could see the pattern in all its brutal, precise detail, the birthday disappointments, the inequitable celebrations, the quiet nudges into financial responsibility, the way my achievements were acknowledged only with a distant, academic pride. While Chloe's mediocrity was cheered with fanfare, they were all part of a system that assumed I would always absorb the weight, remain the invisible support, and never demand recognition. And now, with a single, conscious step, I'd removed myself from that system, at least temporarily. I didn't need their understanding. I didn't need their approval. I didn't even need their acknowledgement. What I needed, what I finally had, was the power to act for myself, unshackled from the decades-long expectation that I would quietly shoulder their comfort, their happiness, their indulgence. And in that quiet evening drive, I felt it fully, the first real taste of autonomy, of control, of self-possession that had nothing to do with being seen or validated by anyone else. I got home, and the quiet of my apartment hit me like a wave. For the first time in what felt like forever, it was just me and the hum of the city outside. I kicked off my shoes, dropped my purse, and sat at my desk. My dual monitors flickered to life, casting a soft glow across the room, and I felt something shift to cold, deliberate clarity. This wasn't about anger. It wasn't even really revenge. It was about reclaiming what had been mine. And for the first time, I could do it without hesitation. I started with Netflix. Easy. Right. I opened the browser, logged in, and there they were. David, Linda, Chloe, and the rarely used Abigail profile. My eyes landed on Chloe's profile picture, that cheerful character from one of those shows she obsessed over, and I just paused, letting myself feel that surge of quiet satisfaction that had been building for months. I navigated to the account settings, fingers steady, and clicked the button to cancel the membership. A confirmation popped up. Are you sure? I clicked yes. Confirm. Done. One down. It was subtle, quiet, and immensely satisfying. They wouldn't notice immediately, and that thought made it even sweeter. Next up was Spotify, the family plan. I could almost hear Chloe humming in the background, choosing songs for some imaginary party that existed only in her mind. I opened the settings, the familiar layout comfortable under my fingers. Change plan, switch to the free, ad-supported version, confirm, and then, methodically, one by one. I removed each family member from the account: Linda, David, Chloe, even the extended family who had somehow been included. Each click was a little flicker of liberation. No fanfare, no confrontation, just the quiet assertion of control. By the time I logged out, the house I'd supported in so many invisible ways would now hear commercials where once there was endless music. The grocery delivery service came next. My mother's lifeline, something I had justified as helping her avoid strain, was about to change. I opened the account, checked the scheduled order for the week. Steaks for Dad, gourmet cheeses for Mom, snacks for Chloe. My fingers hovered for a second, savoring the mix of anger and satisfaction coursing through me. 2 clicks, and the order vanished. Just like that. The week of carefully curated convenience was gone. I deleted the saved payment method, canceled the premium membership. Let them carry their own groceries now. The momentum was building, a quiet rhythm of efficiency and control. I could almost feel the invisible strings I'd been holding cut one by one. Uber Eats, Chloe's constant companion, the late-night snack enabler, the source of dozens of small, indulgent meals paid for on my dime. I opened the family profile, scanned the recent orders: sushi, gourmet burgers, fancy coffee, all hers. A hot jolt of frustration shot through me. This wasn't just about money. This was about being used, about carrying them without recognition. I deleted the payment method, deleted the profile entirely, and for good measure, uninstalled the app. Every swipe, every click, every deliberate deletion was a reclamation. And with each, I felt lighter, more myself. The final pillar, the one that tied them to me in the most fundamental way, was the phone plan. Unlimited data, calls, text, the digital umbilical cord that had connected our lives and allowed me to shoulder their convenience for years. Logging in, I saw their lines under mine: Mom, Dad, Chloe. Chloe's data usage was absurd, as expected. I could almost hear her frustrated little complaints already. I didn't need consent to cancel outright, but I could adjust the plan. Scrolling through options, I found the most basic entry-level plan imaginable. Laughably small high-speed data, limited calls and texts. Perfect. I clicked through, submitted the changes, effective immediately. Their digital superhighways were now unpaved country roads, slow, inconvenient, and entirely theirs to manage. Sitting back, I stared at the dark screens. Everything was done. Each act was quiet, methodical, deliberate. No yelling, no drama, no confrontation. Just a series of choices I had made with absolute clarity. The invisible support I had provided for years, the infrastructure of their comfort, was now mine again. And in that silence, the liberation was profound. I felt it in the loosening of tension in my shoulders, the easing of the lump in my throat, the lightness in my chest that had been absent for months. It wasn't just about control. It was about freedom, about existing for myself, not for their convenience. The anticipation of their reaction hovered in the back of my mind. I could almost imagine the confusion, the panicked texts, the frantic calls. But right now, in this quiet moment, it didn't matter. I wasn't anxious, not really. There was a certain joy in knowing that the world they had taken for granted, the comfort they had relied on so blindly, was now, in a small but significant way, recalibrated. They were oblivious, completely unaware of the unfolding consequences, and that made the victory all the more satisfying. I sipped my tea, letting the warmth spread through me, and thought about how long I had waited for this. All the years of unrecognized effort, of silent labor, of being the family's invisible backbone, had built up to this. And now, for the first time, I was seen, at least by myself. Not in some congratulatory way, not with validation or praise, but with the quiet, steady knowledge that I had reclaimed what was mine, that I had asserted my agency. The devices, the accounts, the subscriptions, they were all small. Symbolic victories, but together they represented something much larger, my autonomy. I glanced around my apartment, the familiar furniture, the soft lighting, the clutter-free surfaces. For the first time in a long time, it felt like home in a deeper sense. It was more than just the space. It was the control, the quiet command over my own life. I could breathe without the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, and that was intoxicating. I felt a thrill in the knowledge that the fallout would come, that the messages, the calls, the frantic attempts at explanation or guilt-tripping were inevitable. But for once, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The first ping on my phone didn't take long. Chloe. Predictable. She tried to order a pizza. Declined. Did you cancel it? The slow, genuine smile that spread across my face couldn't be contained. Her card, not mine, was rejected. The irony was delicious, and she didn't even recognize the distinction yet. I let it sit. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Another message. This one frantic Abby. Seriously, what is going on? Netflix logged out. Uber Eats gone. Phone acting up. Hacked. Haha. The hack theory made me laugh quietly to myself. Easier for her to imagine some anonymous criminal than to believe the boring, responsible, ever-present sister, could take action. Another ping. Mom. Now. Panicked because the internet was slow. Recipes couldn't be looked up. The dominoes were falling one by one, and I was calm, watching, waiting. It was time to respond. Finally, to answer the question that had hung in the air for so long, the question behind every ignored birthday, every slight, every expectation of silent servitude. I typed the words I had rehearsed in my mind since walking out of that kitchen. Me, you were right. It isn't my year. It's my decade. The free subscription to my bank account has expired. Good luck. Send. And with that, I leaned back, taking in the quiet glow of the monitors, the city lights outside my window, and the profound sense of liberation that filled the room. It was done. The infrastructure of their convenience, once funded and maintained by me, was dismantled. And for the first time in years, I felt untethered, unbound, and fully in control of my own life. 3 days passed, blissfully silent, and then the intercom buzzed. That harsh electronic tone made my heart skip. I wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, I walked over and pressed the video button. There they were, Mom, Dad, and Chloe huddled together in the entryway. Of course. My first instinct was to ignore it, pretend I wasn't home. But I knew that would just delay the inevitable. They would wait. They would come back. This confrontation had to happen. I pressed the talk button, my voice steadier than I felt. Yes. Abigail, it's us. Let us in. We need to talk. Mom's voice crackled through, tight with forced calm. I don't think we have anything to talk about, I replied, cool and measured. Don't be ridiculous. Open the door. Dad cut in, impatient. I took a deep breath. Fine. This was it. The final showdown. I pressed the lobby unlock and then the deadbolt on my apartment door. Leaving the chain on, let them in, but on my terms. The sound of their footsteps approached. They probably avoided the elevator, strategizing, but there they were, standing outside my door. I cracked it open just enough to see them. Mom looked distressed, Dad angry, Chloe a thundercloud of fury. Are you going to let us in? Chloe snapped, trying to push the door. The chain held firm. We can talk right here, I said calmly. Mom's voice was pleading, hands clasped. Please, let's just sit down and talk this through. Like a family, I echoed bitterly, a laugh escaping. When did we start doing that? At the party where I wasn't welcome, or during the months you spent having dinners with my ex while I grieved alone? Mom flinched. Dad's jaw tightened. Chloe scoffed. Oh, get over it. Abby, Mark is a nice guy. It's not our fault you couldn't keep him. Her words stung. But this time, they didn't wound. They fueled me. I saw it clearly, the expectation, the manipulation, the years of being invisible, being used, the emotional weight I had carried alone. This was the moment to speak, to set the record straight, take the chain off. Abigail, Dad commanded, voice low and firm. But I wasn't moving until I had my say. I looked at each of them. Mom, anxious and tearful. Dad, rigid. Chloe, venomous. They weren't here to understand or apologize. They were here to reassert control. I finally unhooked the chain and opened the door wider, stepping back. Fine. Come in. They filed in, immediately filling the apartment with tension. Chloe's disdainful sneer met my gaze. Dad stood stiff, arms crossed. Mom fidgeted, eyes darting nervously. Okay, I said, standing tall. You wanted to talk? So talk. Dad started. This little stunt of yours is over. You've made your point. We get it. Now it's time to be an adult. Turn everything back on, and we can put this behind us. I shook my head. Put it behind us, Dad. This isn't behind us. This is it. There is no behind. From now on, this is the reality. From now on, Chloe spat, voice rising. You're cutting us off just because your feelings got hurt. This is embarrassing. My phone barely works. I had to use free Wi-Fi yesterday. Embarrassing, I repeated slowly, letting it sink in. You think this is embarrassing? Let me tell you what's embarrassing. Working 2 jobs in college to save money, only to pay your fines because you're irresponsible. wanting a bicycle for your birthday, getting encyclopedias instead, and then seeing Chloe get the exact bike you wanted, paying for Wi-Fi, phone, food, groceries, and the roof over your head, just to be told you're ruining the vibe by existing. That's embarrassing. That's real. That's life. The room went quiet, thick with tension. I felt my strength growing, each word freeing me from the weight I had carried silently for years. Tears welled, but they were hot, angry tears, not sad ones. Mom whispered, weakly, "That's not fair. Abigail, we've always supported you." Supported me, I shot back, voice rising with controlled anger. "You supported my bank account. You never supported me. When I broke up with Mark, where was your support? You didn't just fail me, you replaced me." I paused, letting the words sink. The raw truth hung in the air. The betrayal, the exclusion, the constant expectation that I would bear their burdens without acknowledgement. Mom looked ashamed, eyes downcast. Dad remained a mask of stone. Chloe's face was frozen, disbelief etched in every line. "You were cowards," I continued, voice breaking but steady. "You chose the easy, fun person over your daughter who was hurting. You always choose Chloe, always. And me, I was just the responsible one, the one you never had to worry about, the one you used." Silence descended, thick and suffocating. Chloe seemed stunned. Mom was openly crying, hands clasped, tears streaking her face. Dad's face remained hard, but I could sense the tension shift ever so slightly. "No," I said, lowering my voice to a calm, firm resolve. "I will not be turning anything back on. The Netflix, the groceries, the phone plans, they were privileges, not rights. You've all shown me you're no longer worthy of that privilege. Chloe, you're an adult. Get a full-time job, pay your own bills. Mom, Dad, I love you, but I cannot continue to enable this toxic dynamic. My financial support ends today." Chloe opened her mouth to protest, rage contorting her face, but Dad held up a hand. For the first time, I saw something other than anger in his eyes. Not understanding, not yet, but recognition. He had heard me, really heard me. "I think we should go," he said quietly to Mom and Chloe. "But Dad," Chloe started. "And now, Chloe," he said, his voice final. "We're leaving." He turned and walked out without another word. Mom lingered, tearful, one last pleading look. Then she followed. Chloe stood for a heartbeat longer, eyes locked on mine, hatred and disbelief swirling. Then she too stormed out, slamming the door, and then there was silence. Different this time, the kind that comes after a battle of great weight. A storm finally spent. I sank onto the couch, trembling from the adrenaline, from the emotional release. I had spoken my truth, set my boundaries, and survived. The oppressive weight of expectation, of invisibility, of being used without acknowledgement, had finally lifted. Now, life feels different, quiet, but in a good way. I spend afternoons getting lost in books, trying pottery, planning trips just for me. It's messy, it's joyful, it's mine. I'm no longer the bedrock for someone else's statue. I'm the sculptor, the clay, the finished piece. There's freedom and boundaries in choosing yourself. And, well, if you've ever felt like your energy was taken for granted, maybe it's time to carve out your own space too, to live fully on your own terms.